Hi, welcome back to Guessagaingaming, Watchdogs Legion, London. And here we are in an area very close to Tower Bridge. We're close to the City of London, but we're also in East London. And this is an area that used to be very docklands. You can see the Tower Bridge in the background there, so we're very close. And this area used to be very dockish, docklandsy, lots of warehouses, and as you can see, the warehouses have now been converted into shops and flats and apartments, and it's all been done up, and you can see all these nice little bridges they've made over all the docks. It's all very nice now, all very expensive as well. Anyway, today's video is about something that kind of occurred to me while I was playing a couple of different games. I reloaded a game that I've played on the channel a long time back and that I really like, called Element Space. It's a turn-based game, because I just kind of wanted to have another go at it, and I kind of did, and the same problems occurred, and it also reminded me of games I played on Steam, turn-based games, because this problem really only affects turn-based games, and it's the horror of Overwatch. And it's something that I think is kind of a problem in a lot of turn-based games. There's quite a few games on Steam that I play, turn-based games, and Element Space I mentioned. It's in XCOM, but it's not as much of a problem in XCOM actually, for the reason one of the reasons I'm going to touch on. But Overwatch can really kill off a game. It can be really terrible, because in almost all games, and this is why I said I don't really count XCOM, because in games like XCOM 2, you've got your group of soldiers, and you get 4 at the beginning, 6 later, so you've got max 6, and generally when you encounter the aliens, if you know XCOM 2 or the War of the Chosen, generally when you encounter them, you find that it's like a couple, maybe 2, 3, and then unless you're really unlucky and trigger 2 sets at the same time, which you can do, then you'll get 6, 7. That's about the maximum. So usually you're in a kind of equal standing with the aliens. You've got 6, they've got 6 or 7, sometimes you've got more actually. So if they do overwatch you, you can overwatch them back, and in XCOM they don't just sit and overwatch you. It's very rare. Usually they'll overwatch you a couple of turns and the rest of them will run at you, and they don't do it for very long. But in lots of games, on Steam, turn-based games, and with Element Space, the problem is that Overwatch becomes the game, because in most games, turn-based games, you will always be outnumbered. XCOM is probably the exception, but in most turn-based games like that, you will be outnumbered by the enemy, sometimes massively outnumbered, in games like Stellar Tactics, and games like Cyber Knight's Flashpoint is another game that comes to mind, even Rogue Trader. So there's lots of games where you will be outnumbered by the enemies, and they'll overwatch you to death. Element Space is probably the worst example I've ever seen, because again, at one point you've only got 2 people, then you've got 3 people. Well, actually one's a robot, but 3 people you can use, we'll call them people. And they end up with like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and they'll all overwatch you. And it's a problem if you want to go back into the videos I made in the past. It was a huge problem. It's why I gave up playing, because basically they'll just sit back and overwatch you from all over the place. They've got 10 guys, you've got 3, and there's nothing you can do. And many of the games I mentioned, it's also a slight problem in, because all those games, they have that element of you're outnumbered. There's other problems or other issues in the game, not problems, but you've also got, they've got different weapons, they've got other things they're using to get you, and so there's other things. It's not just the Overwatch. But then when they also overwatch you with like 10 different guys at the same time, you're doomed. Also, a lot of Overwatch in some games doesn't work like XCOM 2, where if you shoot someone in XCOM when they're overwatched, they get shot, but they can still move, and they can then shoot back unless they're killed. Whereas in some games, you get shot and you can't move, and then you move and you get shot again. So you can't literally do anything for your whole turn. And that really is a problem in some games. And it can get to the point where the whole game is about Overwatch. Basically, if you get too overwatched in a game, you're doomed. Your whole mission is over, because there's nothing you can do at all. Or you end up with a situation where all you can do is overwatch them, they overwatch you, and unlike XCOM, like I said, they won't really try and do much, and you don't try and do much because you can't, so it's just overwatching each other. And I think that really something needs to be done to kind of change the balance in this. I think it would be a much better system. Overwatch is fine, but too much Overwatch is not good. It's not good in any game. And it would be much better, and let's use XCOM as an example because it's probably the game that most people know that's turn-based. If you only allowed, say, Rangers, or in any game, one of the different character types to use Overwatch at all, that would actually make the game a lot better. Same with the enemies. If you only allowed, say, the Advent Troopers to use Overwatch, not all the other things, the sectoids and the mutons, then again, you'd have a limited amount of possibilities of people that can be overwatching you, or aliens, we'll call them people as well. So that would be much better. And even no Overwatch would be better than too much. I like Overwatch, I do it, and I like it as an idea in a game, but if it was a choice between none or too much, none wouldn't affect your gameplay. You just find other ways to play the game you wouldn't Overwatch. But too much can destroy a game. It can make it impossible to play. And like I said, Element Space, which actually I'll probably do a little video about now I've talked about it. But Element Space is a game completely destroyed by Overwatch. I mean, it's a little bit buggy and it's a strange kind of game anyway. But the main problem is Overwatch. You just get to a point where there's nothing you can do and you're being overwatched by people all over the place. So it's just a problem that I've noticed over time. It's got into almost all games, turn-based games, and often it ends up dictating too much in the game. It becomes the game, and that's where it becomes a problem. Like I said, it would be much better to have limited units that can use turn-based, use Overwatch, because that would make it more even, and it would also mean that if the enemy had 10 or 12 soldiers, you had 4 or 5, 6, whatever, if only a limited amount of their types of troops could use Overwatch, it would even it out. So anyway, it's just something I wanted to mention. It's something that I think has annoyed me in a number of turn-based games over the last couple of years, games on Steam. Element Space, like I said, not really XCOM, because if it happens in XCOM, it's not a big deal because of the way XCOM plays, and like I said, because of the balance between how the enemy are and you are, because in many games you get all the enemy at the same time, or lots of enemy reinforcements at the same time, where with XCOM you don't. You can actually, if you're pretty clever and you know the game, you can actually end up just triggering 3 enemy units at once and then kill them and then trigger another 3. If you're clever, you don't have to fight a huge amount at any point. In fact, you can always outnumber them. Anyway, just a point that I thought I'd like to make. Like I said, because I've made this video, I feel like I'm going to make a video about Element Space again. But anyway, thanks for watching Guessagaingaming. Till next time, take care for now.